I guess I'll start with Mr. Romine. Where are these threats and incursions coming from generally? I mean, where are people, where are the criminals, if you will, coming from?
So I think there are a number of places, and I think Mr. Chabinsky is absolutely right. Some of them are intelligence services from other governments seeking our intellectual property for their competitive advantage. Some of them are organized crime, highly organized and capable, and those are international as well. So I think Mr. Chabinsky is accurate on that score.
Mr. Russo, you and I talked about this a little bit. Do you have an idea of how many are external to the United States? Is there any way to trace that or figure that out?
There probably isn't a good way to trace that. Obviously, some of the major breaches that we're seeing now are being perpetrated from outside the United States. As a matter of fact, I picked up a USA Today this morning, and there was a big article about this malware coming from someplace outside of the United States as well. I would agree with Mr. Chabinsky. I think one of the areas that we'd like to see a little more help in is bringing some of these people to justice, stiffer fines, and the ability to stop this thing. We're basically in an arms race when it comes to security, and while we are staying up with them and staying ahead in some cases, you need to be vigilant all the time, and unfortunately, many businesses are not vigilant 365, 24/7, and hackers need to be vigilant one day.
Right, exactly. Mr. Chabinsky, do you have any, are there any estimates about how many threats are from outside the U.S., and also if you have a related comment?
I'm not aware of any actual estimates, but I think it's only natural that hackers being able to remotely gain access are less likely to hit domestically where they are, right? So you would see that other nations are experiencing hacking that would include hacking from the United States, and that we're more likely to then have hacking from abroad. Certainly there is no doubt that a lot of the financial fraud that we're seeing tends to be led or have strong ties to Eastern Europe. But equally true, those groups, even that have those ties to Eastern Europe, are global in nature. We've seen groups that are operating in dozens of countries simultaneously, hitting hundreds of cities at once. We saw one ring that was able to hit ATMs throughout the world in a 24-hour period and steal in excess of $6 million within 24 hours on the ground. And then as a kind of a proof of concept, a group later did it a year and a half or so later, stealing $45 million. So it's certainly global. I would say in that regard that law enforcement is well aware of that, and the FBI, for its part, has a legal attaché program that they are using in no small part to help protect Americans against cyber threats, and they've embedded agents not only within the embassies there, but there are a number of nation states that have invited our law enforcement to sit side by side with them in their national federal law enforcement agencies just to combat cyber. And in that regard, the FBI has cyber agents sitting side by side with cyber agents of other countries in Estonia, Ukraine, the Netherlands, Romania, and Latvia. And so those are very helpful models to build on this international aspect of cybercrime law enforcement.
So most of the time other countries are cooperative with our efforts, and we are with theirs?
That's absolutely correct.
But are there some instances of state sponsorship that we know of? Anybody on the panel?
There are. I mean, so China and Russia are certainly the most heavily invested in state-sponsored espionage. The relationship between nation-state espionage and cybercrime is uncertain in most areas. There certainly is a lot of information indicating that there can be an unsteady alliance at times between nation-states and criminal enterprises, either because at the lower level of law enforcement, not typically at the federal level, there could be corruption of state or local
right.
law enforcement protecting. And at the higher levels, there may be an uneasy alliance where criminals are actually helping the intelligence service for nation-state aims, while on the side being able to get rich quick, if you will, on criminal activities for which the nation-state might look the other way.
Do we know where the data breach at Target originated?
I am not prepared today to discuss that matter.
Anybody else know? Or Mr. Russo, do you have any idea? Okay. Well, I would submit to the committee that that this is an important. I appreciate the two chairmen for holding this hearing, but that this is also a severe national security concern. And the fact that we don't even know how many of these threats are coming from outside the United States, I just think, it makes it important to have additional scrutiny. So I will also be bringing it up in my other committee, which is the Armed Services Committee, though that may not be the right one either, maybe Homeland Security, I'm not sure. But I really appreciate us drawing attention to that in this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.